So this will be a joint presentation between myself and uh, our senior researcher, Dr. Almus, who many of you will be corresponded with when you've been actually sending in your submissions. And Dr. Almus has been overseeing the feedback reports. We have actually many assessors actually providing the feedback, but then we have oversight of those feedback reports by Dr. Almus before they go to you, which is a very time-consuming job, which I know she takes very seriously indeed. And we do at the Centre for Organisational Excellence Research. We want to help you as much as we can so that you represent yourselves as best as you can when the judging stage of the competition begins. So if you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Robin Mann, Chairman of the International Best Practice Competition. So in this session, what we're going to be doing is updating you on this year's competition, but our main focus will be preparing you so that you produce an excellent pre-recorded video presentation. And also we hope to provide some guidance in terms of the jury question and answer session as well, in which case you're allowed to have up to 3 people in that session to answer questions from the jury. And then at the end, we'll just point you in the right direction of where you can look at some examples of 7-star best practices. So that's the agenda for today. And yeah, I guess I must and would be delighted to say, thank you all for putting in the effort to this year's competition. I know it is an effort. I know you put a huge amount of time into it, in selecting the practices to go into the competition, and then producing the written documentation of the best practice. And I imagine that all of you think you've done a fabulous job, and then you get feedback from our team asking you for even more information. So we do that, as I say, just to try and get you to produce the best document possible. So when the jury read it, it gives you the best chance possible to achieve a star rating that equates to the work that you've been doing on that practice all over the years that you've been working on it. The intention is that this competition is going to be exciting, it's going to be enjoyable, and it's going to be motivating. And already, we are seeing that from our side because of the number of entries that we've actually had in the competition. So this is we've now accepted. Ahmed, if you could handle the microphones, please. Okay, so we've now accepted over 100 best practices to give presentations at this year's competition, which is higher than we've had previously, which is absolutely great news. The whole purpose of the competition is actually grow the number each year. We'd like to actually have even going up to 1,000 best practice entries in the future from all countries around the world, because the purpose of this competition is not only to encourage the sharing of best practices at the event itself, and which provides a fabulous learning opportunity and also a chance for you to get recognition. But also the purpose of this competition is to capture as many best practices as we can from around the world. And then all those best practices are then hosted on the bpr.com website resource, which you are all given access to. And the beauty about that and the thinking behind that is that if we can collect as many best practices as possible and host them on that website, then all the participants can then have access to them and can learn from them and improve your organizations. So the more best practices we have that are inside the resource, it's going to support benchmarking for the future, helping you to improve your organization across all facets of your organization, whether it's in HR, leadership, governance, or your core processes. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow the competition in different countries around the world. So we welcome your support. The more support that you give us, the more we can achieve these overall objectives, which will support all organisations around the world. So this year we have over 100 best practice applicants who progressed to the second round of the competition from 14 countries. We particularly appreciate, I've got to highlight the vast amount of entries that we get from the United Arab Emirates. So we need to highlight the great work that's being done by United Arab Emirates organisations. And as I say, we're striving to get more entries from elsewhere in the world too. So to learn from actually the culture of excellence that's been prominent now for many years in the United Arab Emirates, where all organisations, whether in the public or private sector, are trying to be the best that they can possibly be. So these are the key dates of the International Best Practice Competition. We've actually changed the dates, as you've seen recently. We've pushed the dates back. We didn't want to do this, but we decided it's in the best interests of the competition so that we can accommodate all the best practices. And so now round 2, which is a sharing of the best practices, will begin on the 30th of June. So this gives my team the chance to process all the applications, provide the feedback. We've still got to provide some feedback for some best practices, and also gives those organisations that have just received their feedback reports more time to address them and prepare their presentations. So this is in the best interest of the competition, really. I know some of you submitted your best practice a long time ago, but I think the more organisations that participate, the greater the learning, the greater the sharing, and that will benefit all of us. So the first webinar will be on the 30th of June and the last one on the 28th of July. So it's a whole month of learning about best practices from around the world. And as a participant, you can listen and learn to all of those presentations, as many as you want. We don't expect you to listen to all of them because we'll have 18 or maybe 19 webinars, but I'm sure quite a few will be of specific interest to all of you. So you're welcome to join all those webinars. In addition, members of your organization are welcome to join those webinars too. So there is a limit on how many people can join the webinars, but there is instructions on that in the program notes that I sent out to you, where you can invite guests to the webinar, but only guests from your own organization, from the participants. And they need to register on the event website so that we know how many are registering for those webinars, so we can control the numbers. But certainly as speakers or participants as in Q&A sessions, you have priority for all those webinars, and we'll manage that so all of you can access all of them. But in terms of the guests, it really depends on the numbers. But we do encourage you to invite other people inside your organization. This is what it's all about. It's about learning, sharing. So we'll have 18 plus best practice webinars, and then we'll have the final round where the best of the best qualify to a final. And that will be held 19th and 20th of August. We're planning at the moment 3 best practice webinar finals. These are best practices that we think could achieve 7 stars. We might even expand that to 4 best practice webinars. Originally, we were just going to have 2. Normally, we have 2. But because of the number of applicants, we've extended that to 3. Could it be even potentially expanded to 4? It really depends on the quality of the best practices we see in each of these second round webinars. As I've said, you all have as well complimentary access to the bpr.com, and please do take advantage of that. Hold on, I should go to the next slide here. I'm not sure what's happened. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing and reshare my slides again.
Dr. Robin, a quick question regarding the access to the BPR.com. We can access now the complementary add-on access or after the competition?
You can access it now. If you filled in your registration form, then you should be able to access now. I'm just having some problems getting back to my slides. I just don't know why for a second. Let's see what's happening.
Thank you.
So you need to fill in your registration form first of all, and then you can access. I'm
Dr. Robin?
Yes.
This Kim from Sahakini Care in Abu Dhabi. The registration form, was it just for the speaker or for the people that would be involved?
It's the people involved in this. We allow up to 3 people in a Q&A session. So it's a speaker and the Q&A, and they're given free BPR.com access. We can't give everybody inside your organization free access, but at least those people will have access.
Okay, I may need to resubmit. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Let's go back and see whether this now works. Yeah, so last week we provided all those who've registered and completed the registration form with free access. So as soon as you complete the registration form, you'll send it to our team. And actually, Ahmed Abbas is the one who from our team who's now controlling your mics at the moment, who will be giving you access to the BPR.com. So any delays in that, you can email him directly. So you've got his email address on the screen here. And I say all these slides will be shared. The whole recording will be shared later on as well if you don't take note of the information on this. The beauty about that is obviously you can look at past presentations. You know, that's why we're encouraging you to do that. So I think that's most important to do, so you can learn from previous entries. So these are the next steps. Maybe I'm talking a little bit too long here, but here are the next steps. Check the program that was sent out a couple of days ago. Make sure your presentation and best practice is on there. Some of them are not on there because we're still processing them. But if yours isn't on there, you could contact us and ask, is that because we're still processing it, or for some reason have we missed it totally? I hopefully not, but you never know. But please check the program, and also you'd see that we've changed a lot of the titles of the best practices. We've tried to make them shorter. This is mainly to make sure they're going to fit on the certificates that we produce and the badges that we produce, and also to clarify some of the titles as well. Some of the titles of the best practices didn't explicitly explain what the best practices was about. So you might know what the title meant as an organization as you submitted the best practice, but we felt other organizations who had looked at that title, they wouldn't understand what the best practice is about. And so we've tried to clarify what it is about. And we've also removed your organization's name from any titles because it's quite obvious that who each best practice will be from, because your organization's name will always be by the side of the title. So for feedback reports, most of you will receive feedback reports already. But if you haven't, you will be getting one shortly. We're still working through those as fast as we can. So if your organization's name is on the program, it means you have qualified to round 2 of the competition. We're still processing, say, some late applications, so they're going to be added to the program shortly. So there might be some changes to the program schedule. For those names that are already on the schedule for those sessions, we're going to stick to that as much as we can. Occasionally, we might move you to another session, another date, but we'll let you know if that happens. And we're trying to make all the changes to the program, within the next 2 weeks, the 2 weeks at the very latest. So really, then it becomes set in stone. Every day it's going to be closer to the final the final draft, because we know it's important for you to set these dates aside and make sure you have your people available. Registration forms, yes, I say if your name appears in red in the schedule, we haven't received your registration form yet, and as soon as you do that, then Abid Abbas will send you access to the bpr.com. And again, please process, if you've not already, the payment for the competition. It makes the whole process much smoother. And otherwise, we wonder if somebody's not paid, whether they're actually going to participate in round 2, and that really upsets the program schedule. At the same time, we do have other awards still open, and these are the organisation-wide Innovation Award, the Global Benchmarking Award, and Environmental, Social and Governance Excellence Award. So these are still open for applications. I think the second call for these applications is open to the 9th of June, and there will be a final call for applications, which will be the 9th of July for these other awards. Those awards are sort of organisation-wide awards, so they're more difficult to actually apply for in a sense, because you've got to be able to demonstrate how your organisation is focused on those topics, while the international best practice competition is more focused on a specific best practice for a specific part of your organisation. And as you all know by now, your best practices will be assessed against the IBPC's best practice certification scheme. I think already by participating in the competition, you've all done outstanding well. A lot of organisations don't participate, and that means they haven't got the same thirst for learning as you. They haven't got the same motivation to become the best can possibly be as you. So I think you all deserve 7 stars from that motivational perspective. But in terms of the assessment for the competition, we assess your best practices against those 6 criteria which have been specified in actually the application form, and how you submit your application against those 6 criteria. And we have our judges who will be assessing you. And as an overview, 4 stars means the jury will consider your best practice a local or a national best practice, which means your best practice will be of interest to other organisations in your country. But 5 stars and above means that your best practice would be considered to be an international best practice, therefore would be of interest to other organisations in other countries around the world. And this is the whole purpose of the competition, is to drive more organisations to pursue international best practices, to make sure the best practices are at an international standard. We do realise that many organisations participate in the competition, their first time of entering this. It's very difficult to achieve 5 stars and above. So many entries probably will receive 3 stars or 4 stars. But we hope then you enter again, and in future years you improve your practice, and then ultimately you would be delighted if you could achieve a 7-star best practice, which is a role model world-class best practice. So these are the 6 assessment criteria which you are assessed against. I'm not going to discuss these in detail as of now, because we need time to focus on how you prepare your presentation. But certainly your presentation will be addressing these 6 elements similar to your application. So you've already submitted a written application. Now we're focusing on delivering a presentation, which is 8 minutes in length, and you send it to us in advance. This makes sure that you can send us the best presentation possible, because you can practice it many times before sending it to us. It also means we stick to the timetable for each webinar as well, and don't overrun for those webinars. We are very good at sticking to time. I don't think in all my experience we've overrun a webinar by more than 5 or 10 minutes. So we're very good at controlling the time. In addition, for each webinar, there will be 10 minutes set aside for each best practice team to be asked questions from the jury. So I'm going to pass over now to Dr. Almas to talk about delivering a presentation.
Hello, everyone. It's a wonderful meeting all of you here. So I'll be taking you through the basic prerequisites that are for the presentation. So the first point is that, of course, you have to record a pre-recorded presentation and send it across. It should not be more than 8 minutes. So if it overruns, we'll take everybody, can you please mute? Yeah. So if it overruns, we'll play it for like more 15 seconds and then we'll stop. It has to be in MP4 format. How you do that, we'll be showing you in the next few minutes. A maximum of 3 people can participate in the Q&A from your team, representing your best practice and who know about the best practice, because in the Q&A session, they'll be able to answer better. If once you record it, you have to send it to this. You have to, yeah, I mean, we'll go ahead, Dr. Robin.
Yes, please, yes.
Everybody,
لا
can you
لا
please
أحس ما ينفع تداومي مو وقت ما بتطلعين سايد 11 ونص لا أحس داومي
I think Ahmed should be controlling the muting of the session, sorry. Can you make sure
Well,
that all are muted, Ahmed?
Yeah, I can't mute them. I don't have the authority.
You should have, okay.
Dr. Robin, can we go to the previous slide?
Yeah, sorry. Am I going the wrong direction?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
this one. So once you record it, you have to send it at this email address at least 5 days before, so that our team can, do some reviewing of it. And if there's some obvious technical errors, we can communicate that to you, and you can send us a revised recorded presentation. And you have to use a WeTransfer or Google Share to share your files. And also, as you know, this is an international best practice competition. English is the first medium of communication. So in case you have any images or anything, illustrations, graphs, charts in for example, in Spanish or Arabic, please translate it so that the jury knows what you're conveying. And in case you cannot translate it, write at the bottom with a caption or an indication of what the illustration is conveying, so that the jury knows that what are you trying to communicate. Next. Okay, see, these are general tips and good practices that you can, use to design your presentation. So first of all, you have to rehearse very well. Even if you think that you are a seasoned presenter and you're very good at communicating, still we advise that you practice your presentation so that when you are actually recording it, you don't face any particular glitches in explaining your best practice. During your presentation, please talk clearly and smoothly, and clarity is the essence. In the past, there have been examples where the presentation was top-notch in terms of visuals and what was written on the slide, but then the speaker was not audible. It was seeming as if she's speaking from a very far away distance. So, and her voice is also very muffled. So ensure that you speak very clearly and the audience and the jury knows that what you're speaking. So this is a very basic tip, but it's very important. The number of slides is up to you. You can design any number of slides, but then you have to stick within the time limit of 8 minutes. So the structure, we will be showing you in the next few minutes how to structure a general framework of how do you design your presentation. Clearly label your presentation with transition slides. So as you know, we have six subsection. So once you start with a new subsection, you have to indicate that, okay, we'll be speaking about the best practice description or the innovation or the deployment or the performance, so that the jury knows that what are they assessing exactly, which part are they assessing. Give them a clear indication. Include relevant graphs, photographs and videos, which is very important, but ensure that they're relevant and they add value to your presentation, because it's not important that you make it very flowery and very colorful, but then the significance, the practical implication on the entire presentation, there should be an alignment. So avoid cluttering the slides with too much information, because logically each slide will be there on the screen for maybe 15-20 seconds. So how can you read so much in those 15-20 or maybe 10 seconds? So, and the presentation guidelines, you can review, as Dr. Robin said, he'll be showing you some examples of some best practices, 7 stars, and you can also visit bpr.com for the same. So this is an example of a transition slide, which says best practice description. So the jury knows that you're talking about what, then level of innovation, level of deployment, so on and so forth. So please ensure that you dedicate a separate slide, separator slide for each criteria to make it more structured and easier for the jury. This, when you're recording, it is highly recommended that you also include one small image of the presenter. You can self-record it through the PPT, through the feature of PowerPoint presentation, and Zoom and Teams meetings also have this feature where they show the speaker, so that it looks more interactive and less of a robotic thing that you're presenting. So we'll be showing you exactly how to record yourself in a PPT. And Zoom and Teams is obviously everybody knows about that. So next slide, please. Yeah, so this is how you record. This is an example from MS PowerPoint 2021. So this is the record, what do you say, that tab over there at the top. You have to click on that, record from beginning. Ensure that the mic and the camera feed are visible at the bottom. Next slide, please. Then click on record and start speaking and record your presentation. Then stop it, and then you close the entire screen. And then you have to, next slide. Then you have to go to export to video, and then follow the other examples. You can see this slide later. It will be given to you. It's a very simple process. The important point is some people may not be aware of how to record it on PPT. So that is why we are showing it here. Otherwise, it's a very simple process. Now, there's a very famous, a scientific method of explaining your best practice. It's called the assertion evidence approach. These are various universities and academic institutions. It's a very evidence-based approach. So in that, you provide a statement, an assertive statement, which is the key message behind your entire slide. So, for example, don't approach one slide in terms of like bullet points. I want to convey this. You can also use an approach, as it is called assertion evidence. Provide a key message and support that with an image. So on the left, you can see it's a very good example of how they want to convey that they have a range of innovative features to support their volunteers, their company volunteers, and how they have supported with evidence. Like they have actually provided evidence of what are the features of the innovation. So it is providing a key message, and then evidence, visual evidence, illustrations or graphs or whatever you can use, illustrations to support that statement. On the right, it is just plain text. So, you have to read so much, and visually also it's a little overwhelming to the eye and the brain. So always, it is just one suggestion. You don't have to follow it to the T, but then you can incorporate this in some of your slides or maybe all the slides as you wish. Next. So this website is providing a very detailed example. They are actually the specialists in assertion evidence approach. You can visit this website and see and learn how you can, use this approach. So all the details are given on this website. So it makes your presentation more understandable and you appear more confident. Yeah. So from here on, Dr. Robin will be presenting what will be the guidelines and structure and contents of your presentation.
Yeah. Again, what we are sharing here is all our tips from watching presentations all over the years and getting feedback from the jury, etc. So these are tips, sort of our advice. You don't need to follow our advice, but this is just our learning. So that assertion evidence approach is a well-known approach for actually improving the standard of presentations. I actually use that approach for all of my presentations. So it's something that can help to improve not only your presentation for the best practice competition, but also when you give professional presentations inside your organization. Still well worth having a look at. In terms of the structure and content of a best practice presentation, as we've already outlined, please follow the same structure as in your written submission. Therefore, the name of your best practice, but then you would provide a brief overview of the organization. And then, so that the rest of the elements here follow exactly the criteria that's shown in the written submission. Therefore, your best practice description, the level of innovation, so the deployment, level of innovation, results, and best practice evidence and review stage. So the only difference here really is that we want to have a little bit of context right at the start with the overview of the organization, but this needs to be very short in terms of the size of your organization, location, products and services, and maybe something very briefly about the context of why you introduce the best practice, which might be specific to your type of organization or the sector that you're working in. But after that, you follow precisely the criteria. So I'm not going to go through each of these criteria. They'll be relevant to you and they're part of the award submission, the written submission. But what I'd like you to think about when you design your presentation itself and what's useful to do is how you allocate your time. You've only given 8 minutes. So it sounds quite short period of time to convey very important information. Actually, some organizations do so well. They've even done, we don't advise this, but some organizations have still achieved seven stars and they did a slightly shorter presentation of 7 minutes. So it shows you can actually share a lot of information in a very short period of time. But we do recommend you utilize the full 8 minutes. You've got to bear in mind the jury are not assessing you just on the presentation either. They're assessing you in a combination of things when they make their star assessment. They assess you on your written submission, your presentation, and obviously the Q&A session. So for all those 3 factors together, that will give them a good picture of where you stand. So all of them together should be aligned and reinforcing the same message, and this will give then the jury the confidence to give you a specific star rating. So with that in mind, you need to think about how you allocate your time to each session. So this is a general guidance. You can ignore the column called slide numbers. But first of all, I just want you to think about the time allocation. So the time allocation on the right is just, again, it's an advisory. It's not definitive. It can vary, again, dependent on your particular best practice. But general advice would be, 30 seconds on your introduction, introducing your organization, 1.5 minutes on your best practice description. Sorry, I'm counting this wrong. 30 seconds for your introduction, 1 minute for your best practice description, then 1.5 minutes for level of deployment, level of innovation, best practice performance results and best practice evidence, and 30 seconds for the review stage. The reason being for this is really your best practice description and level of deployment are really explaining what your best practice is to the jury. Those 2 elements help really to set the scene of your best practice, help them to give an understanding of what the best practice is. If they don't have that clear understanding, it becomes very difficult for them to then assess your organization appropriately. So they need to have a very, very good, solid understanding of what your best practice is, its scope, its purpose, why it was introduced, and then how you introduced it. So that's the foundation really of the best practice. And then you would spend 1.5 minutes each on level of innovation, best practice performance results, and best practice evidence. These 3 sections are critical in terms of your ultimate star rating. If you're going to achieve 5 stars and above, you've got to be scoring highly for the level of innovation, best practice performance results, and best practice evidence. And if you're going to achieve 7 stars, you've got to be very strong, for instance, in your performance results, to be showing how your performance has improved from where it used to be to where it is now as a result of the best practice. Again, with the best practice evidence, hopefully there's some other supporting evidence for that. And again, they would like to see, that level of innovation, that either it's unique or that there's some really clear strengths to your practice that make it stand out. So it's really that those three factors: level of innovation, performance results, best practice evidence, will be an indicator of whether you score 5, 6, 7 stars. And that can only be achieved if you set the foundation correctly through those first two sections, 1 and 2. The final section, review, is not as important as the previous sections. It's really providing additional evidence that the jury know that this practice is going to be sustainable for the future. So it's giving them the confidence that this is just not a one-off, that the performance is immediately going to drop off or not. It's knowing that this is going to be sustaining, and not only that, ideally going to be continually improved and refined, and that this will, and that you continue to do benchmarking, learning from other organizations. So it's always going to be state-of-the-art practice, particularly for, a 7-star best practice. So number 6, I would say, is just giving the jury additional confidence. So with that in mind, you should be planning your presentation generally around those number of minutes that I've shown there. And all that slide number 1 is just showing you that when you're actually planning your slide set, you can then obviously start to think about how many slides should be in each area. And that's just a rough guideline. As Alma said previously, some presentations may even have 50 slides in an 8-minute presentation, showing a lot of images. It's some presentations are not showing slides at all. The professional sort of media presentations as well. But still, if you're doing that type of presentation, you've still got to think about what you're going to be showing to support each of those elements of the criteria. So hopefully that is useful to you. So we'll next have a look at each aspect of the presentation. For the introduction to your presentation, you need to have a clear slide so the jury know what your best practice is. So this is an example of a very clear introduction slide from the Barcelona School of Management. So this is the first slide they would show in their presentation, and you can see the speaker alongside that first slide. And so it's fully understandable to the jury what this best practice will be about. It's surprising in the past, sometimes organizations introduce a best practice and it's not been clear. So it's something you need to pay attention to. And when you provide an overview of your organization, say make it brief, but it's got to be explanatory. It's got to be understandable, so that yes, the jury will have read your written application, but this is a reminder to them. It helps to fix that understanding in their brains so that they can more adequately assess your best practice. So here on the left hand side is providing a very good overview of an organization in a very simple format, which is easy quickly to look at. This organization yes, began in 1985, and then fundraising started, etc., etc. So it shows how the organization evolved in a very quick visual format. While on the right hand side, there was just too many slides spent on describing the organization, and too little time then was spent describing the best practice. So again, it's about how do you allocate your time here. The majority of your time in your presentation should be explaining your best practice, not explaining your organization. Doesn't matter how excited you are about your organization, it should be quite brief. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is a good example of a presentation which provides a very informative introduction to its organization. And then you'll see the transition into where the organization starts to share information about the best practice. So let's watch and listen to this presentation. It's only 30 seconds long, but jam-packed with information.
Pakistan, a nation known.
So as you can see, it's a powerful introduction that was very informative. We learnt within that time, the size of the school, the number of teachers it has, the number of students it has. We learnt about its values. We learnt about where it's located. We learnt about its curriculum activities, and then we understood what the best practice will be focusing on. And then we have here Sumera, who will be explaining in more detail of best practice. So that is a good introduction that, again, you don't necessarily need to follow with a very polished sort of media presentation as this. It could be shown in slides, but it's that type of format which provides a good opening of an international best practice competition presentation. And then for the best practice description itself, you need to clearly state again what it is and what it is in scope and what is out scope, again, to clarify the understanding for the jury members. So in this case here, there's a very simple definition at the top. This is just one slide. Again, one slide is very, very good, just to clarify again what the best practice. It might be even on just one slide, you have the best practice description and you share the scope in a second slide. But here they've combined the two. I'm not saying that's necessarily good, but it could be done, as I say, across two slides. But still, reading this, it's very clear what the best practice is stated, where the jury can read what it is. And then they describe what's in scope, which is deliver the right frame fit. This is for producing spectacles, glasses. What's in scope is how to produce spectacles to deliver the right frame fit for Indian eyewear customers. But what is out of scope is other factors that are important when you sell glasses, which are things like the choice of frames, their color, their design, etc. So this best practice was very clear about specifying their best practice just about how the frame fits your face. It's not about other aspects of the frame's design. So again, the jury then know that's all they're looking at for the rest of the application of how they deploy that best practice, why it's innovative, etc. So there needs to be clarity around that. We see the other example on the right-hand side of a lot of detail describing a best practice, which is too much for any jury member to understand in a presentation. So making sure it's brief, it's obvious what the best practice is. For level of deployment, again, showing clear visuals of how you deploy the best practice is the quickest way for the jury members to understand what was being done over the timeline since introducing the best practice and how it was introduced. So here on the left is a good example, while on the right it's far more descriptive. It's impossible to read when the applicant is speaking at the same time. So you've got to be thinking about that. What can the jury members understand from the visual information at the same time as you're speaking? Again, for level of innovation, you've got to think about how you can convey that your best practice is innovative. When we talk about innovation, it doesn't mean that your practice is unique. It doesn't mean that nobody else has introduced a similar practice anywhere else in the world. If you have, that's good, but it's not necessarily the case. So innovation could also mean that the speed with which you implemented a practice. It could mean the way in which you've engaged your stakeholders, the way you trained your staff to make sure the practice was implemented correctly and produced the desired results. So you need to think about what's the standout aspects of your practice, what makes it particularly strong, and then communicate that to the jury. Again, if you can do that visually, that's going to be helpful. So in the case on the left, they're showing that through their innovation, they simplified a quite complex process into a very simple process of 3 stages compared to that complex process flow chart. You can see how it was previously. Again, the right-hand side shows a not so good example of just providing textual information, which again is a lot to read and a lot more difficult to understand. For best practice performance results, Yes, we want to see before and after information, how you perform before you introduce a practice and then afterwards. So you can see on the right-hand side, this is quite powerful information showing how performance improved, showing that the projects improved tremendously from 12 weeks to 2 weeks, the cycle time of improvement, the number of projects undertaken improved, etc., etc. So that's clear to the jury members. But in addition to that, I can't stress enough, if you can show graphs such as on the left as well, this adds so much context and additional information that provides a confidence to the jury that this is indeed a best practice, because it shows, it gives a more detailed story on where the best practice was in terms of performance at a certain date and how it's progressed over time. And sometimes with a practice, performance might be cyclical. It might go down as well. But be transparent. Sometimes your performance may go down, but in your presentation, you can then say, for this year's, the performance decreased, but then we managed to increase it again for these reasons. We address these problems. Again, it's giving the jury members confidence that you're evaluating your practice in detail. That's what a graph does. It means you're continually monitoring, measuring, improving. Well, you don't get that sort of information from just before and after data. So ideally, you could provide both, a graph and then just greater clarity in how you perform before and afterwards. And whilst you'll be showing non-financial performance and how you meet your stakeholder needs, also, can you quantify that information in terms of financial performance? Again, that gives the jury additional confidence you've really thought about the best practice and how it's producing benefits for your organization and or for your citizens or clients. So in some cases, you introduce a best practice, it won't produce financial savings for your organization. But if you're a government organization, it may be producing financial benefits for your citizens or the businesses that you're serving, because it's saving them time, it's saving them money. So again, we have a good example here on the left. This is actually from Dubai Police, where they improved the safety standards for their police drivers. So the police drivers themselves were better trained and they were safer when they're rushing to respond to a particular emergency situation, which meant that their drivers were safer, the public were going to be safer, but it also meant that the insurance cost became less, because they were involved in less accidents as a result of that improvement. So they saved a lot of money in terms of insurance money. And on the right hand side, we have an example where they don't provide that level of detail. Best practice evidence, Dr. Almas.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Robin. So for the best practice evidence, we have to provide proof that why your best practice is superior than others, maybe in your country, in your region, internationally, globally. So how you can do that? You can do that with providing, if you have ever won any awards for your best practice. So most important is providing evidence that is directly related to your best practice. Awards that you have won for your best practice, not something which is remotely or related, or organization-wide awards that you have received. Some teams, they include awards that the organization has won. So it very clearly, it puts off the jury. It looks pretentious that you're trying to portray something while it is not true. So ensure that you only include awards that you have won for the best practice, like the title that you are showing. It should be directly related to your best practice. And also you can include any accreditations you've received for your best practice, or any certifications, or any comparisons. Now, this is one point which really excites the jury, because if you provide comparisons between your practice and your counterparts, your competitors, and against your industry standards, maybe regional or international benchmarks, how you compare yourself against them, it really, it is a very good area where you can score higher in terms of star rating. So ensure that if you can provide some comparison benchmarking data, you do so. Yeah, so the left is a very good example of, they're showing how they have won awards and some visual evidence. And also they have, while speaking also, they were elaborating on why they won the award, in which year they won the award. And on the right, they have provided some comparison with their competitors' brands. So that is a very good example of how you need to provide your evidence. Next slide, please. Review next steps planned. So in this, you have to share what are your plans for the future in terms of how you're going to take this best practice ahead. How you're going to move ahead with this best practice. It could be improvements, it could be enhancements, it could be taking this best practice to maybe some other departments, or providing the learnings to some other organizations. You can do so many things with this, with this section, in terms of how are you going to progress with this in the future. For that, it is not as important to just list out what you're going to do, but it will be important to share, and it will create value if we provide a timeline. So for example, if you're saying we'll be doing XYZ, we'll be incorporating artificial intelligence in our system or whatever, you have to provide a timeline in the month or maybe year, definitely year, in which you're going to do that. That shows that your future plans are credible. It looks genuine. Otherwise, if you just say that we are doing XYZ, you can say a number of things. You can say 100 things that you'll be doing. But then what is the credibility? What is the point where the jury will gain confidence that you are going to do it? So pay attention to that as well. And any challenges you foresee in the future in doing your best practice, you have to attend to that as well. So for the summary, what you need to include is, for the description, you have to begin with a clear definition with our best practice, include in and out of scope areas of your best practice. For deployment, you have to provide a clear timeline. For this, a process flowchart is very helpful. For innovation, you have to define the key striking areas which sets you apart from your counterparts, and your groundbreaking aspects. If there are any, you should share that as well. For results, graphs and trend data, before and after performance data, it's very important, both financial and non-financial. In evidence, benchmarking is a very good point to differentiate yourself in the eyes of the jury. And for review and next steps, any challenges and opportunities and future improvements. Next slide, please. Common mistakes: spending too many minutes introducing your organization, your team members, their designations, so on and so forth. Please don't do that because it is not helpful. Your audience is sophisticated, the jury is sophisticated. You all are from, everybody is a legend in his or her own right. So please don't read directly from the slides because it's unprofessional. So practice and rehearse well. When you are moving from one assessment criteria to the next, ensure that you provide a transition slide, like for example, level of deployment, level of innovation, so on and so forth. Indicate where you're moving ahead. Creativity and flowery presentation is very good, but don't let it overpower your presentation, because the jury is very perceptive. If they think that you're trying to camouflage something very colorful with actual what is required out of the presentation, they know it. So don't try to be very colorful and media and everything. Of course, it's good if you provide that, but then the content should be the most important should be your content. That should be the king. That should be striking. So pay attention to that as well. Do not lose objectivity. The lens of objectivity is very important. For evidence, it is a best practice. As I said, do not include what's not directly related to your best practice. So yeah, these are some of the tips that if you keep in mind, it will help you. For the Q&A session, it's a 10-minute session. So generally, I would just, as a blanket statement, I would say that enjoy the session. Don't think of it as something that you should be scared of. Instead of, take it as a learning experience, because the jury, about your best practice, right? You know about it in and out. But sometimes the jury will ask you a certain question, which could be an aha moment for you, right? They are very insightful. So as much as you want to share about your best practice, the jury may ask you a certain question, which you might take back to your organization and improve. So take it as a learning, enjoyable process. So some of the do's and don'ts, I'll just briefly mention to you. Be prepared. review your presentation thoroughly, see all the slides before actually sending it to us, and be concise and precise. When you're answering, don't go overboard with over explaining your best practice, because even the jury, even the other jury members, there are 4 generally jury members. So every jury, should get some time to ask you. So if you ramble on one answer, for a stretched amount of time, the other jury members will not be able to, assess your best practice. Be respectful, of course, always. Be honest. If you do not know an answer, do not try to create an answer, because it will show that you're trying to, just evade the question with something which is not actually an answer. So be honest, just say that we do not know and we could get back to you on this. Be engaging, smile, and if possible, of course, and if appropriate, just smile and just be engaging with the jury. Don't dominate the conversation when you're, sometimes it happens that we understand that you are very passionate about your best practice. You love your best practice, but sometimes you have to just hold on and just understand what the jury is asking you. So do not dominate and do not avoid difficult questions. Sometimes they ask you certain questions for which you don't have an answer. So don't try to evade it or be elusive in your answers. Just hold on for 2 seconds and think what you can answer. And if you do not know the answer, just tell them that we do not know and I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer. So that's fine. That's okay. Don't get defensive. Very important. Don't make assumptions. If you do not understand a question, don't try to think that this may be the question. Clarify it with the jury. They're very understanding. They'll repeat the question for you. Don't ignore the time limit. As we said, it's only 10 minutes. And there are also other, teams waiting for their turn. So just try to be considerate of that fact. And don't panic if you think that you have not understood a question, or if English is a barrier. The jury is very understanding. They're very accommodating. They will repeat the question for you if you ask. So yeah, these are the general do's and don'ts that you have to remember. Next slide. Most important, have fun, enjoy the process. It might be something very life-changing for your maybe company if you just learn from the other best practices, because there are hundreds and hundreds of them. So please grab this opportunity and don't let it go. And Dr. Robin will be taking us through some of the examples from our website. These are participants from the previous years that have, good examples. So yeah, over to you, Dr. Robin.
Okay, thank you. It's a good job. We've not been, we have to give an 8-minute presentation because you see that we'll overrun. We're overrunning on now this 1-hour webinar session. So I'm going to bring this to a close very shortly. Just to say there are many great examples of best practices that can be learned from. We just highlighted a few here. And so when you actually get access to the bpr.com, please do explore them. The ones that are shown here, we're highlighting there's a variety of different presentation styles here as well. So whilst we have sort of shown you our prescribed or recommended approach, we do recognize there's the variety. Some presentations heavily rely on media. Other presentations have just been very simple PowerPoint presentations. We've had seven-star winners from both types of presentations. So the key element to be a 7-star presentation is the content that supports the best practices around those 6 criteria. So it's up to you as the owner of the best practice to decide how you want to go in terms of designing your presentation and how you will share it. But the key element is making sure you address the 6 criteria. So have a look at those 6 presentations. What I'll just quickly do, just for 1 minute, is just go to the bpr.com website right now and just show you how to access them once you're inside the resource. So hopefully you can see the website now. So once you're a member of the resource, you then click on best practice search. And then to see previous award applications, you can click on award winners. You could also write search for here for like police or whatever organization you want to type search for. But if you search, or if you click on award winners, it'll just search the database for award winners related to different awards around the world, not just the International Best Practice Competition. And then you can go down the left-hand side down here, and you could select title of award. And you can put the International Best Practice Competition. And then you could put, for instance, the year of the award and put 2024. And level of recognition, you could select 7 stars. And that will show last year there was 9 7-star winners. And these are the winning applications from last year. So Global Schools Group Singapore, and then you can click on it. And it provides some background information on their best practice here. A written summary of what their best practice was. And then scroll down, you can actually find their written application, download the file. And then you can actually watch the, the presentation that they delivered.
From GSF family to the respected.
So for those ones we've highlighted in that our PowerPoint presentation, we advise you have a look at them, or just have a look at any of the ones here. You can also look at ones that achieve 6 stars, 5 stars, 4 stars, or look at presentations as say for a particular sector. So if I remove, for instance, level of recognition, and then just put search for, I could put anything here. I don't know. Or maybe I should have put a sector. We got some people from Saudi Arabia, so I'll put just even search for Saudi organizations here. Then one automatically comes up here. There's actually more than this, but I think maybe we've also got this. This is from last year, so we're still searching from last year. So we had an application here from last year from the Saudi Gawa Producing Department, which is part of Saudi Aramco, and then you can see their presentation down here. So there's multiple ways to search the information. Please explore the bpr.com, and this should also give you ideas on designing your own presentation. With that, we've overrun this session. Apologies for that. We're happy to stay with you to answer any questions. So if somebody has any questions, this is your time to ask them right now. Thank you very much indeed.
Robin, thank you. It was a great interactive session. Only one question. This side Devabrata from India Titan Company Limited. So we have done one registration. So hope we have made the payment. There is no further payment has to be made for anything.
No, not at all. Unless you're a very generous organisation and wish to pay us more, we'd welcome that. No, it's
Yes.
just the one payment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Mr. Robin.
Hi.
Recording in progress.
Hello, Akmal, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was. I want to ask, how do we get the access code for the BPIR resource?
You fill in the register. You should be once you've. We've sent the registration form to everybody. Even when I sent the program out a few days ago, the registration form would have been sent out. So you just complete that registration form and send it back to us, and then those people will be given access.
Oh, okay. So we'll just have to log in with our email, right?
You will be sent once you've sent in. Have you sent in the registration form or not?
I think we have sent the registration form.
Yeah, I mean, it's two things. One is the application form for the best practice, but secondly, there is actual, once you've submitted the best practice, we then provide feedback and then send you the registration form to ask who's actually presenting and who's going to be at the Q&A session. If we've not already assessed your best practice and given you the feedback, you won't have received the registration form in that manner, but you would have received the registration form when I sent out the program a couple of days ago. So you can actually fill that in and send it back to me, and then Ahmed will send you an invitation letter to access the bpr.com. So you get an email from Ahmed Abbas, ahmed@bpr.com. If you don't get an email from him, then please email him. His email address, as I just giving you now, but it's also on our PowerPoint slides that we'll share with you later.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so you should receive an email. Check your spam if you've not received it.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Robin. I have a question. Now, our session, the webinar for us, it's scheduled on the 2nd of July. But actually, at that time, we have a survey in our hospital. So, is it possible to have our webinar in the next session on the 7th of July instead of the 2nd?
Well, so unless it's absolutely critical, we don't want people really moving the actual webinar sessions, because also we're very careful on how we decide which webinar session you're in. So generally you're in a webinar session with similar types of best practices, which means that also the jury members will have expertise in those areas as well. So once we move you to another area, then it might be the jury members don't have the same level of expertise. But if somebody needs to move a webinar session, it's absolutely critical. We can manage that situation. So you just need to let me know in an email, and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, we don't want 100 best.
Yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand. But the thing is, during this accreditation survey, both the presenters, myself and my colleague, are involved in that survey, you know. So it's better to, I'll just send an email and explain it.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Robin. This is
Hello.
Rachel. I just need I'm confused about the presentation itself. The one that will be presented in the webinar is the one recorded, or we will re-represent it live there in the webinar?
Yeah, good question. Maybe we didn't make that clear. It's we play the pre-recorded presentation in the webinar. So you don't give a different presentation in the webinar. You don't give a live presentation in the webinar. We play the pre-recorded presentation in the webinar, because that makes sure the presentation sticks to the 8 minutes, and we've already assessed it and it's good quality. But obviously what is live is that you'll be attending the webinar and you'll be responding to the questions from the jury. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else?
Doctor, sorry. Unfortunately, I came in late, so would we be able to get the recording of the session if possible? Thank you.
Yes, hopefully the recording of the session has gone well. So yeah, we'll be sending that to everybody within the next hour. And we'll also post it on our website as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruben. This is Zainab. I'm just having a question. Can we resubmit the registration form?
Yes, sure. Yes, yes. You can change it whenever you wish to. Yes.
Dr. Robin, there's a question in the comments box. Can we utilize AI to do the presentation? AI to me, I mean AI to read the PPT is the question.
Yes, you can, especially if, I mean, English is not your first language. We can understand that it won't necessarily be your own voice. Ideally not, but we understand in some circumstances that's the case. And we also understand as well, for some of you, the difficulty in English, even in the Q&A session. So if you need to have a translator too, that's fine as well. As long as everything is an honest representation of your organization, that's the main thing.
There's one more question. Is it required or recommended to show the speaker's face in the video, or is voiceover sufficient? Will this impact the judging or score?
No, you don't have to show your face in the video. It's just one way in which you can bring the video to life. I mean, you'll see a variety of different presentations if you look at the ones in the bpr.com. So there's some which don't show the face at all, but they're really visually very stimulating videos. Any more questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So,
You've gone silent, Aisha. Your microphone's gone off.
am I audible?
Yes, now you are. Yes.
Okay. I have a question that recently you have shared the table about the tentative webinar sessions, and how would we know that which particular topic you have decided for our presentation? Because I could see different topics which are aligned with different dates. So will be receiving any email or notification that which time is scheduled for our best practices webinar presentation?
So I didn't necessarily understand how you've been sent a program a few days ago which should specify when your presentation is, in which webinar your presentation is on and which date. It should be specifying that in the program already. Can't you find your presentation or not?
I couldn't find it with the same title. I could relate some of the topic are related to my presentation, but I am having a slight difficulty. Either it's innovation or is it something else?
Okay, well, just send me an email, because I say sometimes we change the titles to make them more explicit, more understandable, and we shorten some titles as well. So we changed quite a lot of titles, to be honest. So if you have other presentations from the same organization, I can understand your difficulty. So send me an email and I'll clarify which presentation is yours. And if you don't like the changes we made to the title of your presentation, again, you can let us know. That's our suggestion, really, just to make it clearer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Robin, there's one more question. Will the judges have seen the presentation video in advance, or will this be their first time watching it during the Q&A?
It'll be the first time they're watching it in the Q&A. They'll have read your written description in advance. So it's the first time they've seen the presentation. There's another question nobody's asked, but which I'm sure some of you would have liked to ask, which is related to how we've allocated you to particular webinar sessions. Many best practices would relate to different webinar sessions. So you might have a best practice which is on digital transformation, but it also might even be related to HR. It might also be related to leadership. We've actually allocated the best practices, we believe, to the area which it correlates most to, which we believe it will perform better in. But at the same time, you must understand as well that even if we're putting you in a session like digital transformation, and your best practice also relates to other areas, when we consider the category awards, we don't just consider your practice for the category which you've been allocated to for the particular webinar. if your practice relates to 3 areas, even though you're presenting in one area, we will still consider your practice to be a potential winner for these other categories too. So it's not, so don't be too worried if you think we put you in the wrong category. That's where we think you've got the strongest relationship, but we'll also be considering your practice for other categories when we look for the highest star rating for a particular category. And that's happened in many cases before that we thought in because we can only have one winner as well per category. So sometimes, like maybe in digital transformation, there might be 3 7-star best practices in there, and yet in another category, which it relates to, the highest score was a 5-star. So obviously, we can only have one winner per category. So that's one which achieved maybe 7 stars in the digital transformation, but was not considered the overall winner because it's even stronger 7-star in that category. It might be then a winner in another category when we compare it against the other ones which are related. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
One more query from FH. If we send our video presentation in the coming days, would it be possible for you to share your recommendations for improvement?
Probably not if you share it with us in the next coming days, because we're extremely busy. I'd say for the next 2 weeks, even going through a lot of the feedback, the written submissions still. But yes, I would recommend that if you can do, send it to us maybe from 2 weeks onwards. This is what we normally do. We are happy to go through your video presentations and give you feedback. This is why we also say to also submit your presentations really at least 5 days before you're due to give your webinar presentation, because then we can check whether there's any technical difficulties, anything that's obviously wrong with your presentation, and give you feedback. So in many cases we give feedback each year because we feel there's some subtle changes that can be done to improve the video. So yeah, the sooner you send it to us the better, but I'm just saying in the next 2 weeks we're extremely busy, but after that things will be a lot clearer and we'll have more time.
Yeah, there's one question. Can all our team members attend and listen to our sessions?
Yes, that's what we said. If you go to the program notes, it shows how you can invite other people, guests. So you can invite as many guests as you want from your own organization. But once all those places are filled for the webinar, and then we'll close it off. But we've never had to close off a webinar yet because it's been inundated with applications. So, but it could happen. So again, invite people to register for the webinars as soon as possible. At the moment, we're not promoting. At the moment, we will have a separate website using Eventbrite, which will be linked to our website, which will promote all the webinar sessions. So that will be developed in the next 2 to 3 days, and then you'll be able to start registering people. We'll let you know as soon as that can happen. So we encourage that strongly. Invite as many people as you want from your own organization. This is what the whole purpose of the competition is about. Is that it? Any more questions? I think we should have covered most things here today. I really appreciate, again, your involvement. Again, sorry that we have taken so long and there's little issues with our own presentation. This is why pre-recorded presentations often work better, because you can practice them and do them again and again. We couldn't actually practice this presentation really because we've just been working so hard processing all the applications, but hopefully everything is very clear to you. We'll probably also give another webinar session in a couple of weeks' time too, probably going through the same things again, but with maybe some additional information that we've think will be important for you to learn from. And what we'd like as well is that all of you start talking to each other and become one big community and learn from each other. And this is why it's also on the bpr.com. You can create your own profile. and so that you can actually start communicating with other organisations who are participating in the competition. So if you see some great best practices from other organisations, you can then contact them and maybe even visit them, and maybe they become your friends. So thank you very much indeed, and see you again very soon.
Thank you. All the best, everyone.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time. Bye. All the best
Bye-bye.
for everyone.
Thank you.